Today I'll be discussing Jon Stewart's coverage of the State of the Union by President Joe Biden. But before I do, let me just show the clips of the State of the Union which were shown on The Daily Show.
Entered the House chamber, navigating through our divided Congress, and barely getting past the bridge troll who guards the podium.
I didn't see his way blocked.
What say you, sir?
I say to the American people, when America gets knocked down, we get back up. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. Banning books, it's wrong. I say stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Pass universal background checks. Send me the border bill now. The state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
Did you notice how Mike Johnson in the background was sort of nodding his head no like that? Well, the reason he was doing it was because Biden was attacking Republicans left and right before and after all these comments. When the State of the Union was instituted, radio, TV, and the internet, none of them existed. And sometimes it wasn't, addressed as the president to Congress. It was just a letter that he sent. It was meant as a way for the president to try and get all the branches of the government on the same page. State of the Union, and I stress union. Once radio and TV entered the scene, that audience was expanded to include citizens like you and I. Like in All Americans, How Do We Get United? Biden wasn't interested in respecting the institution of the State of the Union. He used it repeatedly to blame and insult both Republicans and the Supreme Court. By alienating Republicans, he made it difficult for them to join Democrats in giving aid to Ukraine. The consequence will be many more dead Ukrainians, and in the long run, more poor dead Russians. Biden also didn't explain why he's allowing American weapons to be used on Palestinians. In short, Biden did nothing to unify the nation. He only divided it. Instead, he used the State of the Union to scare people into voting for the Democratic Party. Ukrainian women and children, including Palestinians, Biden sold to the undertaker for a few more votes. I know that sounds extreme, but I'm sorry. That's how I see it. Jon Stewart picked up where the Democratic Party left off at the State of the Union. It was like a tag team wrestling match. Biden pounded them, slapped John's hand, and then Stewart smashes chairs over their head, pretending it's all fun. If you want to know why Congress can't agree on aid for Ukraine, or anything else for that matter, you only need to watch the State of the Union in an unbiased fashion, without looking at it as a Democrat or Republican or anything else. Just put yourself in the shoes of a Republican. Would you help anybody that never gives you any credit for the help and actually says you're getting in the way? Right? I mean, why would Republicans want to do something for Ukraine when Biden didn't thank them for, thank you for standing behind me the last time we did it, whether they stood behind him or not. He wasn't looking to do that. He was just attacking them. And if you don't believe me, let's start looking at some clips.
Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
Social Security is one of the hottest of hot buttons in politics. So for Biden to say that the Republicans are going to cut Social Security during the State of the Union is uncivil and unpresidential, to say the least. They do not have an opportunity to respond. You can see the guy nodding his head no, because he feels some Republicans, maybe many Republicans, have no intention of cutting Social Security. But Biden just said that they are. So how would you feel put in your shoes? You're in a place, you're listening to the president, supposedly your leader, and he's calling you out, and you can't defend yourself. How would you feel? Here's another clip where he speaks for Republicans.
It's not fair. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no, you guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear.
Let's juxtapose Biden's very divisive State of the Union address about Russia with one given in 1952 by Truman, and you'll notice everybody stands up and claps because he has rallied everyone around a common goal.
If the United States had to try to stand alone against a Soviet-dominated world, it would destroy the life we know and the ideals we hold dear. 1/3 of the expenditure for the cost of World War II would have created the developments necessary to feed the whole world so we would not have stomach communism. That's what we've got to fight. And unless we fight that battle and win it, we can't win the Cold War nor a hot one either.
I want to be clear. I'm not advocating that we should go to war with Russia. I'm not advocating that the Cold War was right or what Truman said was correct. What I'm saying is that no matter what we want to do as a country, we want to try and do it in a unified manner. We want to decrease conflict and partisanship as much as possible. If we give weapons to Ukraine, then we have a responsibility to help them achieve what they want. If we're not going to give them the weapons that they need to defend their territory, then we shouldn't have given them. Biden said in the beginning, oh, you can get overrun. We should have said, we're not giving you anything. You're just going to have to make peace with Russia. And they would have made peace, and that would have been that, because they could not fight the war they've been fighting without our weapons. So you got to go one way or the other, right? Either A, you don't give them the weapons, and you just force them to make peace with Russia, or if you're going to give them the weapons, you have to state what your goal is, and keep giving those weapons so they can meet it. But instead what's happened is Biden has insulted the Republicans over and over again, has not allowed them to get any credit for Ukraine, so they basically pulled their support. Not because they dislike Ukraine, just because why would they? Why would they help? It only hurts them. And you might say, well, they're pulling the support because they know that once Ukraine doesn't get the weapons, that they'll blame Biden, and then that'll be the problem. No, that's not it. They just, again, if the country isn't behind, if everybody isn't behind it, why do it? Then they basically think, well, if that's the cost, like we shouldn't have given them weapons in the first place. If we had known that if we gave them weapons, you would have used it to basically blame us, to call us like pro-Russians, to say that we're cutting Social Security, to say that, whatever, we're not cooperating on the border and all this other kind of stuff, we never would have agreed in the first place. We would have made us think at the first place. So since you're not really committed to helping Ukraine, because again, if Biden was really committed to helping Ukraine, he'd make sure he got all the Republicans on board. But he's not doing that. He's not getting the Republicans on board. Biden is not committed to Ukraine. So the Republicans, in a sense, are doing what the common sense thing is. If you're not really committed, if it's not important to you enough to you, why should it be important to us? So we're going to go back to, what? The Ukrainians should just go make peace with the Russians. They should just negotiate. Because that's really what you want by your actions. And it bothers me that many people just don't see this. That they watch this very, the State of the Union. There's so many things about it that upset me. I don't even know where to begin. But I just wanted to do the video about how the State of the Union perfectly explains how the United States is killing Ukrainians. Again, you didn't give the bombs to Ukraine, then they would have made peace and there'd be less Ukrainians dead. Okay, maybe they wouldn't have a country, but there'd be less dead. But now you got a bunch killed, a bunch more are going to get killed, and we don't know what the end is going to be. Because Biden won't make peace with the Republicans to get them the weapons, and so the Republicans are like, if you don't care, I don't care. Hey, too bad. It's not the first time the United States basically left somebody in the lurch. So what does this have to do with Jon Stewart? There was plenty to make fun of about the State of the Union. Again, about Biden basically insulting Republicans and using all manner of tricks. There's plenty to make humor about there, but nothing. Like all of Jon Stewart does is basically all the jokes are anti-Republicans, and even when he makes a joke about a Democrat, it's so soft and lame. I mean, you couldn't even call it a joke. A comedian's job, I take very seriously. I believe if you're going to talk about politics, you should do it so it means something. And Stewart's show was basically, his argument was that Republicans Republicans are wrong to say they're more patriotic than Democrats. And I'm going to get to that later. But that's it. That's your lame argument. You don't recognize that Ukraine doesn't have shells, that Avdiivka was overrun. You don't recognize hundreds of thousands of young men and women and babies killed by our weapons. Our weapons have a lot to do with it. And Biden talked a lot about Ukraine, and you just ignore it. You can't even stand behind your view that he's too old to be president, which I completely share. So he's supposed to be a comedian. He's not unbiased or neutral about his comedy. It isn't comedy. It's just like, I struggle for words. And what really upsets me is just how many people are dying. And Jon Stewart, yes, it's great that he defends the 9/11 first responders. It's great that he is advocating for soldiers that were hurt by burn pits. But here we have hundreds of thousands of people being killed by our weapons. And I do believe we will definitely end up in this war eventually. We're in World War, and we will definitely get there. And where's Jon Stewart? Where are you, Jon Stewart?